That movie sucked.
I kind of liked it.
Movie Night Crew Network.
What's up, potheads? It's Christina here with a little bit of a special announcement before we get started. I am just beyond stoked to share with all of you, our beloved listeners, that the Movie Night Crew Network is growing. And no, I am not still talking about Tyler Carlin's baby. Okay, congrats, Tyler. That's not what I'm talking about. We are adding a brand new podcast to the network, My Cabbages, an Avatar podcast. You may remember Alex and Zach from our chapter Snape's Grudge from a couple weeks ago. Well, they host their very own podcast, My Cabbages, all about Avatar: The Last Airbender, and we are beyond excited to welcome them into our little pod fam. So please hop on over to check them out if you're a fan of Avatar or if you're looking to get started. They're super fun. They do bits like we do. I think that you'll find that their tone will feel familiar to you if you're a fan of ye old restricted section. Here, I'll let them tell you themselves.
Coffee, tea, honor, cabbage. Long ago, the four elements lived in harmony. Then, shit went totally cray when the Avatar attacked. Only the Cabbage Man, merchant of fine cruciferous vegetables, could stand against his trolling. But when the world needed some dank veg, he vanished. 10 years have passed, and my partner and I have started a new podcast.
My Cabbages! An Avatar podcast.
A weekly show about Avatar: The Last Airbender. Whether it's Sokka's new line of cologne.
Hey, look at you, sitting there on a seal. Well, now look back at me. I'm on an even bigger seal. Now look away.
D&D related antics.
You have to make an acrobatics check for that, and Aang just unzips his pants and whips out his d20s. He's just I got this.
Or randomly breaking into song.
Go bending waterfall.
We'll stumble our way through the greatest show ever made, one episode at a time.
You can reach us at Cabbage Cast, which is our Twitter, or
subscribe wherever you catch pod.
Rotten cabbages? What kind of slum do you think this is?
So just one more time for the people in the back, go check out My Cabbages, an Avatar podcast, every other Wednesday, wherever cabbages are cast. The dark ward dissolved. Harry had the sensation that he was flying, very fast, backwards. A blur of colors and shapes rushed past him. His ears were pounding. He tried to yell, but couldn't hear his own voice. And then he felt solid ground beneath his feet, and everything came into focus again. He was standing next to Hermione in the deserted entrance hall, and a stream of golden sunlight was falling across the paved floor from the open front doors. He looked wildly around at Hermione, the chain of the hourglass cutting into his neck. What's up, potheads? Welcome to the Restricted Section, a show in which a bunch of nerds with potty mouths reread the Harry Potter series for the umpteenth time and discuss the way the story and its themes have stayed with a generation into adulthood. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't done the reading, don't worry. We did it for you. Here's what we're talking about this week. Chapter 21, Hermione's Secret. In this chapter, Harry awakes in the hospital wing, and Sirius Black has been captured, and it's bad. And Hermione reveals that she has a time turner, and they go back in time. They, you might say, turn back time. And we do it all over again. They go save Buckbeak, and then they wait in the woods, and then Harry casts his big old Patronus. It wasn't his dad all along. It wasn't dad all along. It was fucking Harry, and he casts a big old Patronus, and that's that. They save Sirius Black, and they save Buckbeak. That's awesome. It's also super sad. I cried. Welcome to the Restricted Section. It's me, your host, Christina. I'm delighted to be joined today by my beloved Haley.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Also with us is my dearest darling, Mary-Peyton.
I was wondering what adjectives you were going to use for me. I was like, it better be better than beloved or I'll be really mad. So thank you.
Last week I made the mistake of giving someone an adjective and then I was like, and Andrew is here, and he got really mad at me. So I learned my lesson. And we're super excited to be joined by a returning guest, Caitlin Durante, co-host of the Bechdel Cast. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me back. I am delighted to be here.
Yes. I'm delighted to have you here, especially because immediately after, I think during our recording for the Chamber of Secrets movie episode, you were like, can I come on for Hermione's Secret and the Prisoner of Azkaban? So I know this chapter is meaningful to you.
Thank you for, I made some demands, and I'm really grateful that you met them.
Some VIP demands there.
This is an excellent choice. Like, if you're going to demand a chapter, make it a good chapter.
Right?
Yes, gosh. Okay, so this chapter is the whole rest of the story, gang. And, like, honestly, like, I remember reading this as a kid and being like, I cannot believe this story is, like, not only continuing, but also starting over. Do y'all remember reading this, like, whole climax? There's, like, 5 chapters. You remember reading it for the first time?
It's so stressful. Especially this chapter. It's so stressful.
And some of the most stressful parts are the waiting parts where nothing is happening, but you're like, is she really about to write about us just waiting for 2 hours for time to pass? That was my least favorite.
It definitely uses, this chapter uses sort of, like, stillness and silence to, like, build tension almost the way that, like, horror films do, because you're just, like, in the wood and then you're like, a werewolf is coming,
a shadowy figure.
It's just like close call after close call after close call, and Hermione is like the only person who knows what's going on, and she's stressed, and when the only person who knows what's going on is stressed, then you're stressed.
There's just no one to follow here. Yeah. Okay, so before we get started, we have another email from our beloved listener, Mott's. Someone do Mott's Thoughts. Andrew always does the little singing thing, yeah. Mott's Thoughts. So as a reminder, our listener, Mott's, sent us an email a couple weeks ago with some non sequitur headcanons. I really know how to spell non sequitur now, by the way. It has more U's than you would think.
Brag.
So we're just reading one of these, like, headcanons every episode between now and the end of the book, which, by the way, is next week is the end of the book. Get ready for Owl Post again. I'm sure that's going to be lit.
Love a good denouement.
Yeah.
Just a tying up of loose ends.
Yes. The whole chapter for Dumbledore to fucking explain himself. So here's what Mott has to say. Okay, so Mott starts with a Stephen King quote. Okay, in brackets, it says, okay, a turf, but I think the original Stephen King quote said, like, J.K. Rowling, right? But, like, Mott's put in brackets, like, a turf, because, you know, we don't like to say her name or give her too much credit. A turf created 7 Horcruxes. She put a part of her soul in every book, and now her books will live forever. This is a quote from Mott of a quote from Stephen King. And Mott says that this quote from Stephen King is according to people on Tumblr and Reddit, which are 100% reliable sources, of course. There's, like, a parenthetical inside a parenthetical here. Anyway.
It's like it's as confusing as the chapter we're about to talk about. Just like there's just a rehashing of a rehashing of a.
Yeah, get ready for some puzzlers, gang. So Mott has 2 thoughts on this alleged Stephen King quote. I'm going to say alleged so he doesn't sue us. Firstly, guys, find a basilisk fang right now and stab your books with it. Okay, that's Mott's recommendation. Secondly, a theory. The world of Harry Potter is actually real. The author of the books is actually an evil witch, and she turned her books into Horcruxes. It kind of checks out. I mean, looking at the quality of the other crap we've gotten since the release of the last Harry Potter book, it's clear she didn't put her soul into any of that stuff. Hashtag Voldemort confirmed.
Yikes.
I love that. It's a diss and a headcanon in the same sentence, in the same email.
Mott's is getting good at this.
I like this theory because you imagine putting your soul into a Horcrux that is then mass produced, millions and millions and millions of copies, and if each one of those bears some fraction of your soul, imagine having to, like, gather up every single Harry Potter book and destroy them, and that being the only way to destroy J.K. Rowling. Like,
it's like Pirates of the Caribbean, but, like, 1 million times harder than trying to collect those 300 pieces of gold or whatever to undo the curse.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your email, Motts. We love every single word you send us, and they always make us laugh and also kind of uncomfortable. We're like,
especially when I think about how many copies of each book I have at my house at any given time.
At my personal house. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And I've been like, I need to re-buy another set because my original Scholastic set that I use for casual reading is just like obliterated. It's like pages everywhere, like absolutely unreadable, needs to be in a museum. I will, of course, buy this set secondhand. Not that my money makes any difference to J.K. Rowling, but... So, surprise, surprise, Harry awakens in a hospital ward.
Typical.
There he is. He's in the hospital wing. So, as he's like coming to, he hears fucking Snape boasting about his like dramatic heroism. He's like, I saved these children from this murderer and this werewolf, which like frankly the evidence doesn't look great. There is a werewolf. My brain was like stampeding, and then I was like, that's not the word, and then my brain was like marauding, and I'm like, wait, that's not the right word either, but I understand why you went there, brain. And Cornelius Fudge is like, way to fucking go. We're gonna get you an Order of Merlin second class bare minimum. Like, good for fucking you, Professor Snape.
Yeah, I love the exchange between the two of them because we don't really see the Minister of Magic and Snape ever speak. They're kind of two different versions of the people we hate. Very different versions. Like, they hate each other, too. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting.
I was also surprised that Snape doesn't throw Harry under the bus as much as I thought he would, because he's just like, the children, they had been confounded. There was a curse put upon them to make them think this thing. And I was like, I guess that's giving Harry more credit than I thought Snape would give him.
Well, like, because he's talking to Fudge, because he knows that Fudge, like, has a soft spot for Harry. Like, Fudge even says, like, well, we all have a soft spot for him. But he does try to, like...
He says it to Snape, dude. That's dramatic irony right there, because the reader's like, not this guy.
And Snape does try to, like, slide it in there, because he knows that's the only way it's going to work. Like, well, he's been given a lot of leeway. Actually, Dumbledore kind of lets him get away with murder. Something should probably be done about that. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just going to go back to my dungeon. Like, real Slytherin move, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think Snape, whatever, your opinion of him, he is very, very, very smart. And he does a lot of just, like, observing people. And, like, I think we all know that under every circumstance, Cornelius Fudge just wants the easiest explanation. He doesn't want to have to work for it. So I think Snape knows that Harry's going to wake up still feeling heated about the whole Shrieking Shack debacle. So he's like nipping that in the bud. He's like, when he wakes up, he's gonna be confounded. Like, just you wait. And then Harry wakes up and he's screaming about, he's like a murderer is not a murderer. A werewolf is my friend. My godfather's a good guy. Like, and everyone's like, oh, you poor dear soul.
That dude turned into a rat. I don't know.
There's a lot of things that make their story like really hard to believe. I really frankly like, you can't blame the powers that be right now for like not believing his story,
especially when you're in a world where there is magic and it's easy to do. I assume as an adult wizard, easy to do a confundus charm on someone. That would be, I feel like, a quick, easy way to convince a group of kids that you're not a murderer. So it makes very easy sense in this case.
The confundus charm is a super easy charm because you see Hermione basically sneeze out a confundus charm in the 6th movie when she's trying to fuck with Cormac McLaggen.
She does.
During the Quidditch trial, she's like, confundus. It's like the easiest thing in the world.
Pretty fucked up that there's like basically a charm to gaslight people.
Oh my god, dude.
I mean, there's also like murder charms and stuff, but it's just like every nefarious deed you can do as a human being, there's like a charm for it. And it's like, well.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of reminds me of in the Goblet of Fire book, it's not in the film, but like in the book, at the very beginning at the Quidditch World Cup, the film just does, they're like, we don't even have time to talk about this, but they're renting out a Muggle campsite for the Quidditch World Cup, and the Muggle owners of this campsite are like on the premises, literally having their memories wiped like 700 times per day, and it's like, that's fucked up.
Man,
for a sporting event. Yeah, that's fucked. It's really fucked up, dude. It's not good at all.
Mm-mm.
a 50-year-old dude shows up in a nightgown and rain boots and is like, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah.
I think that's literally a thing. I remember that character being like, I like the breeze.
Yeah, no, that's a whole
that
thing. But like, you gotta think that's gotta have like long-term effects, right?
You think it would almost lead to like the equivalent of like early onset Alzheimer's or something.
Well, okay, so also book 4, not to like get into it preemptively, but like
it's okay. We're at the end of book 3. We're basically at book 4.
So like another thing that is not covered in the movies is Bertha Jorkins, who was hit with a memory spell so hard by Barty Crouch Sr. When she saw his son that like she just had a shit memory for the rest of her life.
Right.
Yeah, that's really scary.
Like that can have long-term effects.
Yeah.
And they do this to muggles all the time. Like it's literally their way of covering anything up
Yeah.
that muggles have seen.
Yeah, we've also talked before about the effect of like cheering charms, because they studied cheering charms earlier. Not to get, we can't get too into the weeds, I guess, with this long ass chapter, but like cheering charms, like, is it like taking Molly and the next day you have like a huge serotonin dip, or is it just like maniacal outward smiling while like inside you're traumatized and dying? You know what I mean? It's just like, what are these spells doing to these people?
Yeah.
There's no way to know.
No.
I would like to hope that taking a cheering charm is like taking Molly, and it's at least super good while you're doing it.
Well, that's the thing about these Harry Potter. The whole narrative is that like science doesn't exist. They don't need to, they don't need to worry about science. So anything that is like rooted in science, including like psychology and like they don't even know about it. They're just like, what? The brain has chemicals and hormones?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not studying these long-term effects.
Yeah, you just never get into like the mechanics of magic.
Right.
All right. We'll loop back to that certainly. So yeah, Harry and Hermione sort of like leap out of bed. Ron is fucked up. Ron is out. He's done. He's been given something. Like he's really out. So they just start like pretty much like raving, right? Like from Fudge's perspective, they're just like fucking rambling. They're like, Peter Pettigrew is a rat. Yeah. Black's innocent, et cetera, et cetera. So finally Dumbledore shows up. Sometimes Dumbledore shows up and it's like, oh God. And then sometimes Dumbledore shows up and you're like, thank God.
Yeah.
And this is definitely a thank God moment because it's like Fudge and Snape are not ever the two people you need to resolve an issue.
No.
So everyone leaves and Dumbledore basically is like, yo, I believe you. Side note, I read minds just as a reminder. I just always want to remind people that Dumbledore reads minds. So it's like, maybe if more people read minds, there would be less innocent people in jail. I don't know.
Also, what an invasion of privacy, Dumbledore. What the hell?
I know.
Like this read through, just knowing that we've been really cognizant of it the whole time. So like any scene with Dumbledore where he's like pulling his shit, we're just like, is he doing it right now? Is he not? Like to what degree?
And on the flip side, there's some moments where it's like, hey dude, as a reminder, you can read minds. Like when Snape is in the Shrieking Shack just refusing to believe everyone's like testimonies that he just bore witness to. And it's like, hey man, you can literally, that they're telling the truth because you can read minds. Like, why are you being like this? It's very frustrating. Definitely something that J.K. Rowling developed later and was like, oh yeah, they were reading minds the whole time.
This whole kind of time that Snape is arguing with Dumbledore and the kids, he definitely seems like he's pushing it on them. And I do believe that he's like pushing this tale on them because he wants it to be true. And because he still has this grudge. But there was one line where I was like, does he want to believe it so badly that he is making himself kind of believe that his tale is true? Because he says, Snape's supposed to be leaving with the minister and he hasn't moved. And then he says, you surely don't believe a word of Black's story, Snape whispered, his eyes fixed on Dumbledore's face. And I don't know if that's just him, that last breath of trying to convince Dumbledore that he shouldn't believe it. But the way it's worded, it sounds very much like he really is like, are you seriously believing Black in this case? Like he really is a little bit confused himself.
Yeah.
So something that like kind of occurred to me when I was like catching up on the chapters to read this one was like, like, and I'm not defending Snape here, but it's not just his personal grudge against Sirius that's at work right now. Like, that's a big part of this, but it's also that he is convinced that Sirius is the reason that Lily is dead. So, like, that's probably a lot
Lily.
I'm
so sick of hearing about this bitch.
No, his obsession is definitely, like, creepy and gross, and, like, I am not defending Snape at all, but, like,
No,
I don't
I get
think it's
it, but
just,
that's his...
like, if you are out for vengeance for yourself, it's very different if you're out for vengeance for, like, someone you cared about. And I think that's kind of what's driving him right now. Like, he's not even going to entertain the possibility that he could be wrong. Like, he has decided, like, this is the person who's responsible. It's not me. It's this dude who I already hated. And he's just not going to listen to any version of events other than the one that he's decided on in his head.
Yeah, so he kind of has that same level of vengeance that Black does towards Peter Pettigrew in that case.
They all just need to go John Wick.
Yeah.
I would have so much more respect for Snape if he went full John Wick on this whole situation.
There were like 12 John Wicks in this one scene. And Lily Potter is the dog.
There is a fan theory that Crookshanks is Lily Potter.
Okay, what is up with Crookshanks? Crookshanks has to be somebody or something, or like what I need to know, because Crookshanks has way too much autonomy and like awareness for a normal cat.
Well, here's
the thing. Caitlin, do you have cats? Like,
I don't have any right now,
person?
but I'm a major cat person. Yeah,
cat person.
Brag.
Same. Here's what it is to me is like, how do you get a cat to give even one shit about something that like doesn't have to do with them? Like,
if there's not food involved, cats
Yes.
do not give a single fuck about anything.
They don't care.
So for Crookshanks in this chapter, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but like Crookshanks is protecting people and like leading people around and showing them stuff. Like, it's just like, in what world would a normal house cat do that? So I think that Crookshanks, I like this theory. I don't know if I would buy that it's Lily, but I think that Crookshanks is like an animagus for somebody. Some person is in there.
And J.K. Rowling has said that Crookshanks is half
Kneasel.
What is the what?
Kneasel,
half Kneasel, which is basically like a smart magic nice cat. So
Smart
but that's
magic nice
like that came in the same slew of like Dumbledore's gay. Like, I'm like her like trying to fix stuff after the fact, you
right?
know? So sorry, I keep hitting my mic. I'm not used to it being here. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Crookshanks just. What are your motivations?
Seriously.
I can't hear the word like serious on this podcast. Like, I just can't do it.
Are you being serious?
We're
Black
so
right now?
serious right now. Okay, so basically Dumbledore is like aggressive eyebrow raising, just like, hey Hermione, we could do with some extra time. A little more time
hint,
is
hint.
what we need. We could do with more. I'm giving you permission.
His voice just gets higher and higher.
Oh my god, like that fucking endless Family Guy skit where it's like, you working on your book over there, buddy? We just need a little bit more time. Yeah, Hermione, you got some time on your hands? Okay, so then he is like, okay, but also you can save Sirius Black, but you can also save maybe 2 lives. Think about it. Bye.
Why does he speak in riddles all the time? It's
just
like, be direct, Dumbledore.
They're 13.
Plausible deniability.
You're already like just putting so much hope in their hands by just letting them do it in the first place when they haven't done anything like that before. And then you're also not going to tell them what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. My husband, whom is 30 and an engineer and really excellent at problem solving, it's like, I still spell out I'm like, hey, I need you to listen. Look into my eyes. I need to know you're listening. Here's what we're doing today. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. Okay, wait, but can you say it back to me? You know what I mean? It's like, why is he just like, hey, go figure it out. Bye.
Drama.
Have fun breaking the law. Yeah, drama all days. So basically Hermione's like, let's go. also doesn't explain anything. Here's the thing is it's like there's no time. But like technically right now there is time. Like she could spend an hour explaining herself and then go back in time
go back again.
4
Yeah.
hours. Yeah, like
totally.
There's no need to do it like this.
She could even just reverse it 3 and like 1/4 time. You know, like just like 5 minutes extra would have helped.
Yeah.
You know?
But there's no time because we're Gryffindors. Hermione has like this hourglass thing and she puts it around, it's around her neck. She puts it around Harry's neck and she flips it, time turner, flips it backwards. And and they reappear in the entrance hall. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys a brief personal anecdote right now. I occasionally go to Burns, which is like Burning Man. A burn is like a festival where you burn something and you're like, yeah, fuck the establishment. And it's really cathartic. And then you go back to your desk job on Monday and you did a bunch of Molly and you have a serotonin dip and it's like not good. But like they're fun. It's fun in the woods. Okay. So my friends one time gave me like my burn nickname of Tina Turner, right? Or Tina Burner. Mm-hmm. Okay, Tina Burner. Mm-hmm. And I requested that it would be Tina Time Burner. And they were like, I don't know what that is. Is that a Harry Potter thing? Because it always is.
Well, I'm glad they could guess.
Yeah, I guess that wasn't as good. I just thought it was funnier in my head, I guess. You may now call me Tina Time Burner.
Can I call you Tina for short?
Yeah, call me Tina for short.
Fuck
God damn it. Everyone already calls me that. So basically, okay, they reappear in the entrance hall. It's 3 hours ago, but Harry doesn't. I don't know. Harry's like, the sun is weird. I don't know what's happening.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And I knew before starting this, I was like, Mary, don't start with too many time turner questions because we don't have time for that, literally.
There's no time.
But so they reappear in the entrance hall. So I guess when you go back in time, it kind of puts you near where your past self was at that time.
Yeah, I noticed that too, because I always kind of thought, like, you end up where you went. Like,
otherwise it's chaos.
Yeah, like, my memory of this chapter was always, like, that she dragged him into a closet, then did the time turner, and they were in the closet where no one was going to see them or run into them.
Yeah, that would be a fucking smart way to do it.
But no, she just, like, they're in the ward and then they're in the entrance hall, so I don't understand how that works.
Right, you don't, this is not a space-time turner. You don't also travel through space, you travel through time. So if once she turns it the 3 times, it should just put them 3 hours earlier in the exact same spot where they are, which I think is how the movie handles it.
That's
the movie
how the
handles
it.
The movie does a straight-up rewind, which is very visually cool. I do like, tune in 2 weeks for our movie episode, but I do like the way that the movie does this whole thing. I like the way that Dumbledore's like, ah-ha-ha, and like runs away and like locks him in, and then it's like, it's like for the viewer, it's like we have to rewind the day so these 11-year-olds in the audience know what is going on, and I'm 30 and I'm like, thank you. Yeah, the only thing that I can like suppose is like maybe there is like some kind of like element of like intentionality to help Hermione like get to her classes, bop all over the school.
Like she can think about where she wants to be while she's doing it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and like, okay, now I'm at Transfiguration, which is good because I was running late.
I guess that's the only solution because it's like otherwise, like what if they hadn't even been together at that time and it had put them at 2 different places, Right.
I think because they're like connected
by the necklace.
Yeah, they're both in its. I don't know, man.
Yeah, the intentionality I feel like that's the first idea that I've heard that works kind of.
I've been toying with doing a series of bonus episodes that are like port keys. What the fuck, and like a time turner would be like a good one, just like. Time turners, like what's happening there?
I feel like, considering the way that like time travel conversations in general tend to go, I feel like any conversation about how a time turner actually works with our friend group would end in a fist fight.
Okay, we're gonna have to select who's invited. I mean, time travel is notoriously difficult to do, right? And every time travel story you love has like a logical fallacy in it because that's the nature of time travel, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I was even like reading something recently. Wait, now I'm like, was it this chapter of Harry Potter? Yeah, time travel is notoriously hard.
Well, that's why I picked this chapter, is because I'm obsessed with time travel. I love time travel movies.
Yeah.
When I read this when I was, I don't know, whatever, 12 or 13 or something for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, this is just like what happens in Back to the Future 2. So I was like all jazzed about it, and
It must be real.
so, but yeah, I feel like there's just not a way to do it where you're not introducing like 40,000 plot holes into the mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like if there's even one time travel story where I was like, I really buy this.
Everyone says that the movie Primer is like, oh my gosh, that's like the closest you get to like realistic, like scientifically viable time travel. But also that movie makes no fucking sense. And like I've watched
Wait, so you don't agree?
Well, it's a boring story that like is it doesn't even. I don't know what the movie's about. I don't know what they're trying to do. I don't understand the rules, like any of the world building. Like none of it makes sense to me.
So that's not your plug for the week.
No.
That's like someone was like, I know exactly how time travel should work. I need to put it in a story. And the rest of it they just sucked at. But they were like, I got to get this out there.
That is an amazing quantity of science fiction, is like, I have this really cool conceptual idea. I'm going to create a really boring story around it.
Yep.
This is the hill I will die on, is so much science fiction is so concept strong, and then everything falls before the concept, and then it's like you can't write a story also. You have to be able to write a story within your concept.
Philip K. Dick.
Oh my God. Philip K. Dick.
Wow, shots fired.
The most guilty of that in the entire world.
Just honestly, like, you know, about 10 years ago when the dystopia wave was coming in hot on the heels of Hunger Games, it's just like so many strong concepts just absolutely fall apart. Okay. Yeah, I would like to continue to investigate the logical fallacies of the time travel physics going on in this chapter.
I love thinking about the part where they're in the closet and she's kind of explaining it to Harry. Harry, being Harry, catches on kind of quickly. He's like kind of fine with it within like a second.
Fucking Harry.
He's just like ready to go. Can you imagine if Ron had been a part of this? It would not have gone well. I feel like he would have had so much trouble with it.
Yeah, okay, so I just finished rereading Percy Jackson and the Olympians, book number 1, The Lightning Thief. And there's a lot of similarities between Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, and our friend Charlie did give us a PowerPoint presentation about the similarities between these two characters. Shout out to Charlie. This probably isn't meaningful to anyone in this conversation, but in this chapter really specifically, Harry was like big Percy vibes, and Hermione was big Annabeth vibes, because Annabeth is like the daughter of Athena, goddess of wisdom, and she's like, I have a plan and we're doing it and I'm not in a good mood about it. And Percy's always like, okay, all right, no, yeah, I'm just glad to have you here as my friend. And like, that's how I felt this whole chapter. Like, Harry's just like, oh, wow, you're really good at this. Like, who are you? You're better than I thought you were.
I mean, Harry, like, that's kind of the main difference between how Harry and Ron handle, like, magic problems, is that, like, Ron is familiar with magic, so if he was involved in this situation, he'd be like, how do you have a time turner? Why do you have a time turner? How the fuck does this work? You know these things are really fucking dangerous, right? Whereas with Harry, like, Harry's just happy to be included. He doesn't really, he knows that he knows nothing, so anytime crazy magic shit happens, he has no gauge for how crazy it is, because it's all crazy to him, so he's like, oh, okay, so I guess time travel's a thing. All right. Guess we're doing this, and I will just not question it.
And Harry's a stand-in for the reader, and so the reader also is like, oh, I guess we can do that in this universe.
Which, like, absolutely wild, especially under these circumstances where, and like, the book tries to explain it, where they're like, yeah, it's pretty weird to give a 13-year-old the ability to manipulate time, but it's because she's so studious, and she's only going to use it to take 300 extra classes this term or whatever. And it's just like, in what world, even in the wizarding world, like, no, that is not. I had such a hard time suspending my disbelief for this part, where I was just like, they're giving a 13-year-old free reign over this object that manipulates time. Excuse me?
Like on this reread, I'm using a lot of what I'm going to start calling legacy disbelief, where it's like when I was 13 reading this, or like 8, I was really able to suspend my disbelief in that way because I was like, I'm capable of that responsibility too. And I just have to like really carry that with me. You know, I have to be like, remember when this made sense to you. Okay, let's get back there.
Honestly, like, this read-around, I think the main thing that we've questioned with regards to Hermione and her ability to literally manipulate time is the fact that she uses it to get to her classes, but then doesn't use it to, like, take naps or, like, eat or do homework.
Her self-care in this book has been alarming. I hope she learns something. I think
Seriously.
She starts setting boundaries in book 4, so I think that this has probably been a good experience for her.
I mean, she doesn't use it again. There's no evidence that she ever uses it again, right?
No, she drops Muggle studies and then she has like a normal
Muggle studies!
Yeah.
Hermione, your parents are dentists!
She's like, I got that.
She already dropped divination. I think she drops Muggle studies and maybe one other thing, and then she has a normal course load.
I think she just is like, okay, obviously I can't handle that. I don't do well with given free reign of just academics. I need the limits of regular time in my life. And she learns that about herself. That's great.
I guess I'm going to have to obey the laws of physics.
The next time that you are feeling like there's not enough hours in the day, be grateful that the circle of life makes you rest.
I would do that. I feel Hermione so strongly in this book because I would absolutely use it and probably kill myself with it, because like when I'm driving to and from activities that I have to do, I think about all the things that I wish I could be doing while driving. It's too much.
That's why I listen to podcasts, because I'm like, damn, I'm going to fucking learn something during this 20-minute drive.
I do. Yeah, that's how I do it. Yeah.
All right. Harry and Hermione reappear in the entrance hall 3 hours previously, but we can tell by the sun. Hermione pulls Harry into a closet, and no one in this book is remember that whole chapter where Sirius Black was like, I'm only gonna murder one person tonight, and he never is like, hey gang, I'm innocent. Yeah. Like Hermione's like, oh, I can hear us outside, and Harry's like, what do you hear? Like, what is happening? Hermione, she can hear them walking past under the invisibility cloak. They're going down to Hagrid's, but they're also inside the closet. So Hermione finally is like, I was given this time turning device for class purposes. And Harry is like, wow, Ron's gonna be really relieved to finally have his answer to that mystery. He's been worrying about that for a long time.
And that's what he would have harped on the entire time. Ron would have been like, Hermione, I can't believe you lied to us and you hid this from us. That's all he would have cared about.
It's true. It's interesting because we've talked before about how in a lot of like the Harry Potter like climax moments, you have to get Hermione out of the picture. They erase Hermione from the entire like probably last third of the Chamber of Secrets because she would have made it too easy. So it's interesting that in this book it's like Ron's the one who's incapacitated, because like, yeah, I think that going stealth mode is hard with Ron.
Yeah.
Ron he's always clamoring about too loudly and doesn't know how to be discreet.
It's honestly the main detriment with Ron in this situation, even if he hadn't broken his leg, the main detriment with Ron is just his absolute willingness at any given moment to throw hands. Because, like, Hermione manages to hold Harry back from fighting a few people, but, like, they would not have been able to hold Ron back. Like, nothing can hold back the Weasley temper.
Yeah, so we had to put Ron down for the end of this book to get away from his blind rage, because Hermione, yeah. The other thing is, like, Harry's polite. Even if Hermione's, like, not strong enough to necessarily physically hold him back, Harry's not gonna, like, push her aside. But, like, Ron might, Ron might, like, wrestle out of her grasp. Harry's like, okay, wait, I'm a gentleman.
You said in Chamber of Secrets they have to kind of erase Hermione from it because it'd be too easy. I actually kind of feel that way about this chapter as well, because Hermione is literally the only one that's used the time turner. She's the only one that knows how it works and the rules of it. But somehow Harry ends up doing all this stuff, which drives me a little bit crazy in this chapter. Like, she kind of explains it to him, and he's like, then up at the door, he's the one that's like, okay, let's go. And he's like, he runs to the forest before her. I don't know why that drove me crazy. He can just be faster, but that still made me nuts. And like her role is kind of just to hold him back.
There is definitely a balance with Hermione's character where Harry's our protagonist, and so like, yes, in moments like this, he takes the lead. He takes the lead from Hermione, and that is frustrating. But at the same time, one of my favorite things about Hermione in these first few books is how bad she is under pressure. And to me, that is the only thing that prevents her from being a Mary Sue, is that she is really bad under pressure. And so it is like, yeah, I really do wish she was doing more. But also, our Hermione, who has lived as an only child of dentists for so many years and has almost never had to do anything life-threatening, it's like, yeah, she's bad under pressure. And so it is definitely both.
Yeah.
It can be both. I maintain that one of my favorite things about Hermione is when she loses her shit, dude. She's like, I can't do this. And I'm like, Hermione, same. Like, totally same.
Yeah, this is the first book where we start seeing that.
Yeah, the whole, like, last 2 chapters, she's just been, like, shrieking. And I'm like, that is so relatable to me. It's like, you're the brightest witch of your year, but that doesn't prepare you for anything, you know? Like, there's a murderer.
Like, oh, you get straight A's? Awesome. There's a werewolf, so...
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. So, okay, they're in the closet. They're, like, sussing stuff out. Okay, like, Harry... Yeah, the other thing is, yeah, Harry also makes this connection that, like, Dumbledore said that we could save 2 lives tonight, and I think the second one is Buckbeak's, which, that to me does feel like a Hermione moment, right? Of, like, figuring out what the fucking Dumbledore mysterious, like, go do the thing. It's like, what does he mean? So they go down to Hagrid's cabin once they realize that they're supposed to be saving Buckbeak as well. And timing is of the essence here. The executioner party, I don't know, just like a bunch of white dudes who are trying to murder a fucking hippogriff.
Yeah, horse bird.
With a lot of paperwork.
Horse bird. Yeah, lots of paperwork. They show up and at Hagrid's cabin, they hear like themselves being like booted out of Hagrid's cabin. The executioner McNair, right? He peeps outside and he's like, there he is, little Buckbeak. Tied up in the backyard, safe and sound. And then he goes back inside because they're doing paperwork. They're doing like a lot of paperwork. I don't know. To me, that almost felt like this is like a funny British like bureaucracy good joke. But also, I guess there probably is a lot of paperwork if you're like executing a living thing. I don't know, man.
I would hope so, honestly. I guess.
I just couldn't know less, I think, about any subject. Like, I really don't know anything about executions. We wondered before, like, McNair, what are you doing, bud? How did you get to be the hippogriff executioner?
It's a very niche job.
Mm-hmm. He seems to just like it.
But also, at the end of it, he's the one that goes to gather the Dementors to give the kiss. They're like, oh, McNair.
Yeah, so what is his job description? He's just sort of like a terrifying beast wrangler.
Yeah.
/ executioner.
I don't know. So he formally works for the Department for the Disposal of Magical Creatures. So I don't...
Why is that a whole department?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a whole department.
It's really weird. So Harry goes out to get Buckbeak. It has to be Harry because Buckbeak knows Harry and has bowed unto Harry before. So Harry's like, oh no, this is the worst time to have to bring out my like Victorian era manners. He's like, hello, fine gentlemen. Fancy meeting you in this pumpkin patch. Would you like to come on a promenade with me into the woods? Buckbeak resists. Okay, to me, Buckbeak is 0% cat, but like Buckbeak to me has big cat energy. Does anyone else feel the same way?
More so than Crookshanks, yeah.
Buckbeak is just like preening his feathers and
he's
like
doesn't
really care
me?
that he's about to die. Yeah, he's like, why should I come with you?
I mean, who was it that compared Hagrid to Joe Exotic? Like replace Buckbeak in this whole thing with a tiger, and it's exactly the same. It's a flying tiger.
Oh, okay, yes. Wow, flying tiger.
Another pet that Hagrid would have, a flying tiger.
For sure.
A flyer. So they do manage to get Buckbeak to come with them.
Sorry, was that a delay? All I'm picturing now is like the scene from the movie where Draco is rolling around on the ground with like his arm bleeding, and just like Hagrid being like, "I'm never going to financially recover from this."
Yeah.
Wait, we made that meme. Someone has made that exact same joke on this podcast, and I made a meme of it already, Haley. So that proves your genius if you conceived of the same meme as someone.
Like whoever you are.
I thought it was Haley who did that in the first place.
I've been known to make the same joke multiple times, so honestly, who can say?
Okay. So what's happening? Okay, they get Buckbeak into the woods, and they here's what tells me that McNair is a bad person. McNair is so enraged that he's not able to behead a living creature that he like frustratedly swings his axe into like a stump or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, you're a bad person.
Yeah, in the fence and someone else's personal property.
It was into the fence. Does the text say that?
Yeah, I think swung it into the fence.
Okay, that's even more fucked up. Yeah. That didn't make it into my notes, but that's super fucked up.
Hagrid probably built that fence.
With his hands! Yeah, and Hagrid's really happy. Okay, get ready for it. Okay. Get ready for how happy Hagrid is. It's okay.
Hell yeah.
So they're just waiting in the woods. I really do remember reading this. I remember reading this and being like, I can't believe I am doing this again. Like, little 8-year-old me, like, we are literally like in the woods watching ourselves, just like mind blown. So they watched themselves go to the Whomping Willow, right? The whole Scabbers debacle and like the fucking Sirius attacking them full dog mode, and like Then Lupin comes racing out. Harry wants to go grab the invisibility cloak that he dropped previously, but Hermione stops him because J.K. Rowling is not prepared to confront the realities of what that would mean for the space-time continuum if, like, things get displaced. It's like, Hermione's here to make sure I don't have to write that scene, you know?
Yeah. That's her role this entire time, really.
So then Hagrid, drunk and happy, he goes up to the castle. Ding, ding, ding! Drunk teacher count! We've been counting drunk teachers. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me go to movienightcrewnetwork.com where we have our tally. Click on the restricted section. Check out our website. It's pretty cool. I designed it myself. Okay, our drunk teacher count. With this drunkenness, Hagrid is up to 4 drunken appearances.
Damn.
Nice.
He is still leading. McGonagall has been drunk once, and Trelawney still only question marks. We can't be sure. Hagrid is still clearly in the lead of drunk teachers.
If Trelawney's anything at this point in the proceedings, it's high.
No, it's for sure. I think opium is what we all agree on.
That the sickly 100%. Sweet smell in her room that's draped
opium
in
den.
Like gauze. Yeah, it's an opium den. It looks like an opium den.
When I hear the words opium den, what I envision is pretty much Professor Trelawney's classroom where she educates minors.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay, so then Snape goes, right? He grabs the invisibility cloak, he goes into the Weeping Willow's roots. I almost said the bowels of the Weeping Willow, which is disgusting.
Whomping.
We don't enter bowels here, but yeah, it's whomping. Okay, so then they wait. They're just still waiting. This felt so long to me as a kid. Like, this felt like it took forever. And I think it does take like almost the same number of like pages as the chapters that it is covering, you know? Like, it's really crazy.
Well, it begs the question, why wouldn't Hermione turn the time turner in the other direction and just skip over the part where they know they have to wait?
Okay, wait, I do have maybe an answer.
Okay.
It can't fit around Buckbeak's neck.
That's a good call, because in reality, if you picture just the two of them, Harry and Hermione, their faces have to be so close.
Well, the movie makes it stupid. The movie's like, this is a cute little charm, and now it is a belt. And it's like,
it was so long. It would have been magic, down to her knees, I feel like.
The thing is that, like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, I have a necklace that is, like, more or less a time turner that was gifted to me by my friend Ani. And, like, it's a long necklace. Like, it rests in a between the tit situation. And, like, I think I could literally get that around someone else's head. And I just don't understand, like, why not in a movie just get the one prop and make it work? Like, why are you using like all these different chain lengths? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, we can see what you're doing.
Movie necklace chains never make a goddamn bit of sense. Like, anytime someone wants to dramatically take off a necklace, they rip it, and it's like, okay, how do you get it back on? How do you get it back on? Have you ever actually broken, like, the chain of an actual necklace? It's infuriating.
Wait, the last time I was at Mary-Peyton's house, I didn't tell you this, but I fixed it, so it doesn't matter. But your dog broke my necklace, a la Pocahontas and Cocoam. But I fixed it, so like now I can tell you that Hawkins broke my necklace.
He's in big trouble.
I was the one who was on the ground like, puppy! So like really that was all me. But
you can't do that with him yet. You cannot do that with him.
He's a big baby pit bull. I love him. Okay, so necklace aside. Okay, so they're just in the woods, and Harry's like, this feels like a great time to tell you that I think I saw my dad. And Hermione's like, hey, bud, cool theory. Just as a reminder, your dad is dead.
I hate that she says that so much. I hate it.
Well, what else are you supposed to say?
There really is no other way to phrase it.
She could have just said, like, that's Harry, I don't think that happened. Or Harry, that sounds impossible. She doesn't have to, like, be like, here's
your dad
why.
is dead.
Believe it or not, your father is dead. And that's just not possible.
Okay, I guess you're right. Like, I'm having a hard time believing the I statements, right? Like, I'm having a hard time figuring out how that
I
could
feel
work.
like your father is dead.
But I'm interested to hear your perspective. Yeah, he thinks the Patronus that he saw was cast by his dad because it took the shape of a deer, like a giant deer.
Well, he didn't see what it was. He saw...
didn't? Okay. He saw the face and it seemed familiar,
Yeah,
okay.
he was like, I've seen that dude before.
That's so fucking funny because, like,
I know.
Okay, here's the thing. If you saw your damn self, would you be like, oh, that's myself? Or, like, I would probably be like, that bitch looks exactly like me.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what I would think.
Have you ever had the experience of, like, walking into... A lot of restaurants do this, where there's, like, a wall that is low-key a mirror, and it takes you a second to realize, like, you think the room is twice as big as it is, and then you're walking, you're like, that person is moving exactly the speed I'm moving at. They look a lot like me, and oh, shit!
It's really funny because I don't remember where we were, but I like watched that exact thing happen to my beloved husband, Sean, recently, like at a public institution. I don't remember where we were, but I saw the whole thing in his head. I saw him be like, what's over there? Wait, what's going on? Oh, that's a wall. That's a wall. That's a wall with a mirror. And I was like, my sweet tender baby. Okay, that is probably a good way of describing it, where it's like, whoa, and then you're like, oh, me. Okay, so finally they see themselves come back out. It's whatever. The amount of crazy that it is to know that, like, you're like fighting in a different place right now. Like, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. But they see themselves come back out. They see Lupin go rigid in the moonlight. So we had speculated in a previous chapter about, like, does Lupin need moonlight to turn into a werewolf? And if so, why not just go into the dungeons? Here's a logical fallacy. And I was like, maybe it's just a timing. Maybe it's just the right time of night and the moon comes out and it's like, oops, it's 11. I'm a werewolf now. But this chapter makes it exceedingly clear. When Lupin runs out, the text is like, the moonlight was covered by the clouds. And so, like, he wasn't affected and it didn't make him a werewolf. So there's, like, a lot of questions there about, like, why not just, like, fucking draw the curtains, dude? And then you, like, won't become a werewolf.
Yeah.
Right. But it's explained earlier that, like, every month he turns into a werewolf and he just, like, hides in his office and, like, or before that when he was, like, a teenager, he would turn into a werewolf no matter what. But right, that part makes it seem like he needs exposure to the moonlight. So there's some dissonance there.
It's like a weird detail to include when you could just not include it and be like, it is just because it's the full moon, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have created your own plot hole. Congratulations.
Yeah. Also, why did they chain him to...
I can't even get started on the chaining.
Okay.
No, it was a bad idea. It was a bad idea all
thing
around.
I've ever heard. Why? That never works in anything. any form of media or story where they chain a bad guy to a good guy. Never works.
Here's the question is, okay, they're in the Shrieking Shack in the previous chapter, or I think actually, I don't really remember. Yeah, the chapter before. They're in the Shrieking Shack and they're like, Peter Pettigrew is a human now. We're not going to kill him. We need to serve justice. We need to get him up to the castle. How would you make sure that Peter Pettigrew got back up to the castle?
Stun him. Like, if you're not going to kill him, there's a spell for that. Just stun him and, like, float him out with Snape.
Crushed it. I asked and you answered.
I would stun him, make him turn back into a rat, stun him, and then hold him tightly as a rat.
Put him in a cage.
Yeah. In your jacket. Put him in your jacket.
Okay.
My friend used to carry their rat in their jacket. I don't know why they thought it. It didn't make any sense.
I think the stun him is all we really need because Snape is incapacitated during this. Like, Snape is we got him. We got Snape, which is like, you don't need to have that guy, but we got him because he's unconscious, you know? So it's like, yeah, they really made a lot
from like an Expelliarmus charm. I feel like they didn't even like do a charm that knocks someone out. They're just like, It
was a triple entendre, triple Expelliarmus,
and that really does the trick.
I think it was Brooke, and if it wasn't, I'm sorry to whoever actually said this, but I think it was Brooke who said like, why don't Harry, Ron, and Hermione make the triple Expelliarmus like a thing? You know, like in a pinch, we'll all just disarm them and they'll fucking go unconscious.
Hey man,
yeah, they just be 3, 2, 1, and then boom.
Nothing knocks you out like a 3-way, man.
I also like love the image of like they're in like a confrontation and like imagine that you're in a confrontation with like 3 people who are like all on the same team and they just start counting down and you're like,
that's what I was thinking.
What's going on?
I would run so fast.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so there he is, Lupin, in the moonlight. He's going rigid. Just get him a fucking umbrella, dude. Like, if that's what this is.
Just a parasol.
Okay, so Harry wants to go grab Peter Pettigrew, but Hermione's like, no, we can't interfere. And then Harry's like, wait, we need to go. And Hermione's like, wait, we can't interfere. And Harry's like, no, we're in danger. We're in actual danger. There's a werewolf.
She's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I do, you know, not to keep harping on the movie, but we will be covering the movie in 2 weeks. But, like, I do like the way that the movie added a little bit of werewolf drama.
Mm-hmm. Makes it more visual, makes it more cinematic.
More visual, more cinematic, and, like, you're in danger.
And I like that they added those 2 moments of, I don't know what to call, like, past Harry and Hermione and current Harry and Hermione. I guess that's it. But, like, 2 incidents where they actually do help each other, and you don't realize it until you see them go back in time. So when, in the movie...
Don't talk to me about The Rock.
The Rock. Okay.
Don't talk to me about The Rock.
I still think that's cool. Like, this, like, little... Because you see it happen in the regular timeline, and you're like, what is that? But you forget about it. And then the same thing happens with the howling that happens that drags Lupin away, that helps save Sirius.
Yes. Okay, I like that one. Mm-hmm. Okay, although I don't really believe when you meow at your cat, it knows you're not fucking a cat.
Yeah,
right? Like I think Lupin would be like, that's not a werewolf. But like I like that one better. I think The Rock was sloppy writing. Like I think they could have done the same thing more slickly. Yeah, the movie does make this whole thing like more what am I trying to say? Entwined, exactly.
Yeah.
I my brain was like weaving together the past and the future. What I don't like in the movie, oh my god, what I don't fucking like is when Hermione's like, is that what my hair looks like from the back? And almost like blows their whole cover. She doesn't give a shit. She knows her hair looks like shit, dude. That really upsets me.
They're like, what's something funny that Hermione could say right now?
What if she was just like an idiot? Yeah, I hate
You know how girls and women be obsessed with how they look?
Yeah. Maybe she pulls out some lip gloss right now
and they can smell it on the wind. That being said, if I did suddenly see myself from behind, I probably would be like, oh, that's me. Oh no.
Like if it was me, I would just be like, oh, I need to fix my posture.
I think for me, it would be let's all say what would surprise us from behind.
Oh god.
I think for me, I would be like, oh, wait, that ass is really fat. Like, I didn't know it was like that.
No, for me, it really would just be like my posture and the fact that my knees bend backwards. I would just be like, I look like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
No one can really tell that your knees bend backwards. I've noticed that because we're close friends, but, like, it's not obvious.
Really? Because Willow used to point it out incessantly when we were children, so...
That's mean. That's mean of her.
Yeah.
I don't agree. Okay, so they're in werewolf danger. So they go back to Hagrid's cabin. I do love how, like, confused... I like how complex... This is, like, the third time we've been to Hagrid's cabin tonight. You know what I mean? Like, it's getting to be, like, a lot to keep track of.
Hagrid's cabin is, like, base in a game of Manhunt.
Yes! Wait, can you imagine playing Manhunt on the Hogwarts grounds?
That'd be amazing.
I'm in the Whomping Willow. Come get me, bitch.
But also they have a hippogriff in tow this entire time, too. And this hippogriff is just like...
They bring into Hagrid's house. How does it fit into his little cabin?
I don't know how, but it has been in his house previously. Okay, there's like a line earlier in the book where they're talking, and it's like, oh, people get really crazy about their pets sometimes. Hagrid says that, and then like behind him, Buckbeak is like eating a ferret on his bed or something like that. And it's like, okay, Hagrid.
I think we think of Hagrid's hut as being small because it's termed as a hut, but it is to scale.
Oh yeah, Hagrid fits in it.
Yeah, because so like he's huge, so I guess it's like it's him and a large dog and one other large animal can fit in there. So like it can't be that small.
He made sure there was room for one more large animal.
Have you ever like what is Fang, a boarhound? Have you ever seen like
a gigantic dog?
Yeah, have you ever seen a dog of like that size? Like one of the ones that like if they get up on their hind legs, they're taller than you. Their head is bigger than your head. Like mastiffs, they're terrifying. They're adorable, but they're terrifying.
I love it, like Nana from Peter Pan.
Yes.
Yeah.
I fucking love Nana. Okay. So Hermione and Buckbeak are like safely in Hagrid's hut, and Harry's like, I'm not even lying, don't worry about it, but like we need to know what's going on. I'm gonna go see what's going on. And boy howdy does he go see what's going on. So he's like, I'm gonna see who conjured that Patronus. So he goes out to the Dementors. No, he doesn't go out to the Dementors. He goes out to watch the Dementors from a safe distance. They're like, he's watching himself, right? Like down by the lake. The Dementors are like approaching. They're trying to kiss him. You know what I mean. Okay, and he's like, where's the person who's gonna do the Patronus? They should be like near me, maybe. Like who's this person? And so like, but nothing happens. So finally he's like,
Daddy, where are you?
There really is like a genuinely like such a sad moment where like he's thinking like, all right, whoever it was, and then like as it starts getting down to the wire, he's like, come on, Dad. Like,
I know.
It's like
really
the one moment we ever see him like have that little bit of hope that maybe they're still out there.
Mm-hmm. I know. It is really sad, but I think that really makes what happens next like even stronger. Is he's like, okay, the heartbreak of realizing that it's not my dad doesn't matter right now. Like it was fucking me, dude. I love when a character is like, it's fucking me. I'm the only one. I'm here, like, because no one else is gonna fucking do it. Like, I love that.
I mean, it's echoed in the 7th book when he is like, I have to die in order.
No!
I'm sorry, but it really is echoed, and he does it so quickly. Like, this moment, like, was just mind-blowing reading it the first time, because she really does kind of build it up. Like, okay, we know he's dead, but Harry just saw him, and Peter Pettigrew came alive after all. Came alive, quote unquote. After all this time, and then
it's like a lot of things, impossible things are happening right now.
Yeah, and a lot of that group comes back, and so it makes you at least question it. And then this part happens, and it's only one small paragraph between when Harry thinks it's his dad and when he acts.
Yeah,
it like happens so
Gryffindor's
quickly.
act. Yeah. Okay, so confession time. I listened to this on audiobook, which I cry more easily when things are being delivered unto me. When I'm like reading something about like the brain work, it's like it's harder for me to cry. I do still cry when I read certain books, but I cried twice during this chapter as it was being read unto me by some delightful woman on YouTube. I cried in this moment because of all that we are talking about, Harry rising from the disappointment of realizing it's not his father and then realizing that it's him, right? Like that's so meaningful.
My mom actually, this is her favorite moment to talk about in the books. She's read them like 20 times and she only started reading them like 3 years ago.
As a reminder, Mary-Peyton's mom was on the podcast for one of the first, I think the Burrow, because we were like, Mrs. Weasley, mom. It was
Mom
a mom
energy,
chapter.
yes.
So go back to the Burrow episode of Chamber of Secrets if you want a reminder about how dope Mary-Peyton's mom is.
Yeah. But she loves this moment because she really sees it as when Harry goes from being literally from a boy to a man, because he literally pictures his father in that place. He sees that an adult wizard is delivering this Patronus and saving who he needs to save and saving himself. And then he literally steps into those shoes and makes it happen. And she theorizes that that's kind of why the books also become more adult at this point as well. Right?
Our boy.
I know.
That's my boy.
No longer a boy. Not
yet a woman. Okay, yes.
Shout out to my mom for that one. So good.
Yeah, it is really powerful. It's really powerful. Just boys and dads.
Dads and boys.
Just dads and boys. Fucking James Potter, dude. I really would also like a bonus episode. It's just like James Potter. What's going on there? You know? What the fuck? Because like there is so much about him that is like so powerful, but like also he was like a straight up jackass.
Well, he's an interesting character because you get like one glimpse of him like for one day when he was 15 and sucked. And then, like, everything else that you know about him is from when he was, like, 20 to 22.
Yeah, he was young when he had a baby, got married, and then died.
Yeah.
Like, he was young as hell.
So, like, he apparently had a whole lot of character development in between, like, 15 and 20, which, like, good for him. But, like, I want to know about, like, him and Lily and, like, Sirius and everyone, like, during the Order of the Phoenix days. Like, I want to see, like, James and Lily apparently stood up to Voldemort, like, 3 times before he killed them. That was part of the prophecy. Like, I want to see that shit.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Where are we? We're by the lake.
Harry just cast his Patronus.
Harry casts his Patronus. He saves his life. He saves Hermione's life. He saves Sirius Black's life. And he finally understands that this was his Patronus. And it takes the form of his father, Prongs the stag, a deer. And then the Patronus comes back to him, and they kind of just look at each other, and they're like, what up? And then he disappears.
He, like, reaches for it, and it vanishes just before he can touch it. And we're all fine. We're all fine with it. We're all totally okay with all of the missed opportunities of fatherhood in this book, and we're not gonna cry.
Wait, the next time I said I cried twice in this chapter, and the next time is also an instance of a missed opportunity of fatherhood. I wish there was like some mom action going on right now.
We really need some mom vibes, honestly.
Just like any female other than Hermione just like nagging him to do nothing in this chapter. Right?
I agree that we need like a mom heavy like arc for Harry, but like this is a dad's book. Like this is like dad's. This is dads on dads on dads.
This reminds me of when I was young and my dad would host like poker night and like all his buddies would be over and they'd be drunk, but I didn't know it because I was like 8 and I would like go downstairs to the poker table and they would think I was like the funniest, smartest person. And like they would all be like so having such a good time and like laughing. And like that's like the closest thing I can relate to like the Marauder situation is my dad's like poker nights, you know, like big dad energy. So Harry goes back to Hermione and he's like, no big deal.
That was me.
He probably is like part, I don't want to brag, part, It wasn't my dad. Don't worry,
Like,
I'm not going
I feel
crazy.
so silly. Oops,
Yeah,
why did I think it was my dad? I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, they haven't been friends long enough, and he's not quite old enough to get to that place where it's like, you can tell your best friends anything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally anything. Like, I have this weird bump on my vagina, can you look at it? You know what I mean? Like, we all get there. But he's not, he doesn't understand, like, friendship still. He's, like, still learning it. Okay, so they, together, Harry and Hermione, they fly on Buckbeak up to the tower room. Dumbledore gave them the number. He gave
them, like, a window number. Which, like, I would never... like, you see...
How do you know that?
you also see this in, like spy thrillers or whatever, of, like, there's a sniper on the 34th floor, like, 6th window from the right. I'm like, how in the fuck do you know where the 36th floor is? Like, are you fucking serious right now?
Yeah, I just want to see the part where someone goes, okay, 1, 2, 3, and just like counts all the way up to like.
Especially while flying upwards on a wild animal.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. Our beloved coworker Grace lives in an apartment complex on the first floor, and there's, I would say, like maybe 6 to 8 doors in a row that all look the same. Maybe 6 to 8. And like, I never know which door it is. I always have to get her to come out and get me, you know? So it's like, that's a lot. That's a lot.
If they just like sat outside and shouted for Sirius to come get them.
Stick your head out.
It also reminds me of, okay, so Haley and Mary-Peyton and I all work in the publishing industry, and it kind of reminds me of when you get to the design phase of a book, and the book is like in a PDF format, and it has all of the lovely accoutrements, and like we're trying to get it to look like an actual book. If you have any corrections to make, like you need to provide the designer with like the page number, the paragraph number, and the line number. And it's a lot of very tedious counting, and people pretty consistently like get it wrong.
For sure.
They pretty consistently they get it really wrong, and it's like, oh, you don't know how to count. So like I'm shocked, basically is what I'm saying, is that Harry and Hermione got to the right window.
Totally.
So I'm like stalling because this was real. I don't know why this was so hard for me, but they get Sirius Black and they go up to like the tower, and they're like, you need to go. And Sirius is clearly trying to stall. He's like, to me, it's like, it's really evident that he wants the moment to be longer and grander. He's really in awe of Harry, who in this moment is so reminding him of James. And he is like, I've been in prison for 12 years. Like, at all costs, I will like speak to you in this moment. And Harry's like, fucking go, dude.
Book Sirius is like desperate for what movie Sirius got.
Yes. For
like,
sure.
Like in the movie, they have that like long conversation about like,
yes.
Oh, you're so much like your parents and they live in here. And like there's none of that in this. They're just like you need to leave.
Yeah. There's no time.
I will write you a letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no time. It's not like I have a time turner or anything.
Don't tell him.
He's gonna want to borrow it.
Even in the previous chapter when he's talking about how he thought Harry could possibly come live with him, and it's so awkward, and it's really just rereading this book I haven't done in a while, to be honest, and I really forgot how short that is. Like, I don't know, it was even more awkward for me reading it now because they really didn't have any time talking, and then he's like, you could come live with me, and Harry's like, yes, yeah, for sure.
That was so quick. That was like like an hour ago you thought he was a murderer who was going to kill you, and then suddenly he's like, do you want to come, I don't know, live with me?
Okay, vice versa. Maybe Harry is crazy. like Sirius Black doesn't know what he's taking on either. He has no experience with childcare.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really okay. So here's the thing: is I told you I was listening to like the audio of this being read to me. I'm not gonna say audiobook because there are 1 million lovely people on YouTube who would love to read Harry Potter to you. I just want to make that exceedingly clear. And And I was listening to this be read to me, and like right at this moment, Sean called me. My husband, Sean, like called me, and I answered because he was like on his way home from work, and I was like, "What do you need? Some like logistically, do you need information from me about dinner or my whereabouts? You know, like?" And he was like, "Hey, like you're like some Amazon stuff came from you today," and he was just like bullshitting, and I was like.
How dare you?
I was being really short with him. I was like, I need to go. Harry and Sirius are having a moment. Yeah, it's really sad because they're both so alone in this world.
There is simply nothing about Sirius Black that does not absolutely break my heart every single time I read this series.
I know, you've said before that he reminds you of your own dad.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. A lot of really depressing ways.
Yeah, he doesn't remind me of my dad would probably look at Sirius Black and be like, I'm cooler than that guy, but he's not. Yeah, it's just like you want them both to have happiness. And yet at the end of this chapter, Sirius Black is like flying away from Harry and like their happiness is growing ever distant.
And the problem hasn't really been solved. Like Sirius Black's name isn't cleared. And I mean, Harry knows now and they know now, but really not that much has changed.
Having Dumbledore on your side is really meaningful, but it doesn't change like the law, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, even Dumbledore said like their story is not believable enough. You know,
Dumbledore was like fucking Dumbledore, dude. I don't even know where that sentence was going. He's just like, I'm gonna write this, but I ain't gonna tell anybody about it.
Okay, not to keep harping on the time turner thing, but
let's do it because honestly we got through this chapter a lot faster than I thought we would.
If this time turner exists, and it seems like multiple of them exist, and yes, there's probably like a lot of regulations around the use of them, but if Dumbledore allows it to be used to kind of exonerate these two people who were, or like this person and then this animal that were about to be like executed, why then wouldn't where's the limit? Like, why wouldn't you just use the time turner to prevent Buckbeak from ever attacking Malfoy?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you use it to prevent Voldemort from killing a bunch of people?
For a moment there, Caitlin, you were like, why, what? And it's like, yes, that's how we all feel.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean, why not go all the way back to the beginning and just like kill Voldemort when he was a baby?
Right. I think that it's the whole Hitler argument. As much as I love time travel and time travel stories, it's too science fiction to be in a fantasy narrative like Harry Potter. It just like introduces this weird thing that I feel like doesn't have any place in it. So
they're
it just
not like scientifically prepared to handle like the implications of the time turn. The narrative is
right.
And like I feel like when time turners kind of like come back a little bit in book 5, like they see that whole room of them, like they're kept in the Department of Mysteries, so it definitely seems like wizards also don't really understand them. Like it seems like they figured out how to it's like nuclear energy. Like they figured out how to utilize this thing before they really had the means to control it. And now they're just like, all right, we can use a little time travel as a treat, but we're not gonna fuck with anything major. So like, I think Hermione's time turner probably only works like by hours. If she tried to go back like full days, I think it would probably like fuck up. Because, like, it seems to be based on how big they are, because there are some that are huge and some that are small.
Yes. What you're saying is for sure true, but, like, your analogy is insane to me. Because if it's, like you said, quote, like nuclear energy, it's like, yeah, we do in our society have scientists who know a lot about nuclear energy and, like, work on that. They know a lot about it. They're putting themselves at risk, experimenting with this thing that we, like, don't know a lot about. And it's like, would you hand it to a 13-year-old?
Wizards don't give a fuck about child safety. We've established this.
Yeah, and I am trying to get better about remembering the fact that Hermione's birthday is in September, so I think she's technically 14. Not
Oh,
that
well,
that
that
makes
makes all the
a huge
difference.
She's just
that's
like
fine.
she's just a little mature, you know.
But also, like, it's weird to me too that I feel like it's a little too easy how time travel is kept to these certain tools called time turners, because most magic, you would think that someone has figured out some sort of magical spell with their wand to affect time in some way, because they can certainly do that with space and with, you know, everything else.
They can do it with like I would argue that they literally can do that to some extent on like, okay, so what I'm thinking of is at the beginning of The Half-Blood Prince, when Dumbledore and Harry go to try to convince Slughorn to come to Hogwarts, and they find him in this like obliterated home because he's trying to like make them think that like he's been attacked or whatever, he's not there. And like Dumbledore with a swish of his wand sets everything right. And to me, that is like a form of time travel. It's like what you did, but backwards, you know? And it's like, yeah, where are the boundaries?
Yeah, I mean, someone definitely would have figured out how to do something with time with a wand.
Yeah, I agree. And also, like, even just like an obliviate spell, like erasing someone's memory, that is like a form of like, time travel is a strong word, but like undoing the past, you know?
Right. Yeah, there are too many, there are not enough limitations to what these wizards can do. More rules to the world. That's what I say.
Yes, this is what we call a soft magic system.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right, Caitlin, in that like it's weird to have like it's either science rules or magic rules, and I feel like time travel really mixes the two.
Yes,
and it doesn't work really.
Absolutely,
right.
Yeah. It is this overlap where it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, some of our chapters that are 3 pages long go on for like 2.5 hours. So like, I'm pretty proud of us. First of all, girls get it done. Does anyone else have anything about this chapter that they want to figure out before we before we move on to wrap it up?
Let's talk about time travel.
Yeah, we haven't covered that yet.
Wait, I'm having the weirdest case of deja vu.
Or is it?
I mean, do we want to talk any more about Hermione in this chapter? Or have we said kind of all there is to say about we're just like a little disappointed?
I mean, I thought about it a lot. I was really disappointed in like that even ends with her being afraid of flying.
Yeah.
And really not doing anything, not even finding the window, you know, just.
Yeah, not figuring out that Buckbeak is like the second life to save. Like she does nothing but nag in this chapter. And that's disappointing for a chapter called Hermione's Secret.
She's
very disappointing.
She doesn't lead any of the action in this other than literally spinning the time turner. But that's it. She literally doesn't even make it run to the Forbidden Forest first. That drives me crazy.
That one thing really fucked you up. And in the movie, you know, I know this isn't the movie, but in the movie we were talking about how it was kind of cool that they added the werewolf drama, but like Harry also is in charge of that scene. Like Harry bodily protects her from the werewolf, and it's like, that's not how werewolves work. You're both gonna be attacked by a werewolf. Like, yeah, I wish that Hermione... Especially because, like, I really understand that in the last couple chapters, Hermione's been, like, fucking under pressure and not coping. And, like, I really respect it because she manages to, like, manically whip out the werewolf reveal. She plays her part even though she's, like, not managing the pressure well. But it's, like, they really do just, like, the narrative reels her all the way back in for this chapter.
Yeah.
And she could have done a lot more.
Yeah, I do think that, like, part of Hermione's character is that, like, she is more of a rule follower than Harry and Ron. She just has more inherent trust and authority because she's, you know, she didn't grow up abused and she didn't grow up with siblings, so she's just like, what do you mean? Authority figures are always right and fair. And she's been, like, more and more, like, letting go of that, but especially with the time turner thing, like, I'm sure that McGonagall beat it into her head and has been beating it into her head, like, there are rules with this, you do not break them. So, like, I do understand why, like, for this chapter, she needed to be like, no, absolutely not, we cannot be seen. She needed to be, like, the person who explains the limitations of, like, the immediate thing that's allowing them to do this. But I do fully agree with you, Mary-Peyton, that, like, she could have been the one to figure out that, like, they need to save Buckbeak. She could have, like, figured out where the window was. Like, she could have had more of an active role here.
It almost feels like this chapter, like, what the movies do to Ron all the time. The movies take Ron's smart and give it to Hermione. It almost feels like this chapter took all of Hermione's smart and gave it to Harry. And the bottom line is that if Harry had a time turner and did not have Hermione, this chapter would have been really similar. And that's very sad.
Mm-hmm. I'd be interested, how much have you noticed, because it's been a really long time since I've gone back and read any of the books, except for this chapter, obviously. How often does that happen where Hermione kind of gets sidelined or isn't allowed to influence the action? Or, like, because I feel like there are examples where, like, she figures things out.
Yeah.
But
there's definitely moments. So, like, the ones I really note are obviously the climaxes of these books. So in the Sorcerer's Stone, for example, they're going through the different gauntlets, Queen's Gambit, the chess thing, gauntlets. They're going through the gauntlets to get to the Sorcerer's Stone, and when they get to, like, the potion room, which is not a movie thing, that's a book thing only, it gives her the agency, right? And she's like, I need to go back, because there's only enough potion for one person to go forward and one person to go back. And so I'm not prepared for what's on the other side of that. So, like, I figured out this math. I know that this is the potion that you need to take to go. She really handles that. Harry's like, okay, I'll go on. And, like, in Chamber of Secrets, it's like, they take her out of the running. They're like, you're petrified now. But, like, she still saves the day by being like, it's Pipes, it's in the paper in my hand, you should have seen it sooner, Pipes. So really, this is the first time that the narrative, I think, has been like, this is Hermione's chapter, and then, like, really failed us.
Right, okay, yeah. That is very disappointing.
In the same book where she bitch slaps Malfoy. So disappointing.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm like, how do we end this cheerfully? There's nothing cheerful right now. It's really, like, literally Sirius Black is alive, and, like, I guess we're happy about that. Flying away into the sunset. Are y'all ready to move on to some plugs?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, because of your enthusiastic response, Haley, you get to go first.
Joke's on you. I have something.
Good for you.
I am going to plug Shadow and Bone. It's on Netflix. I have not read the book series it's based on, but it's one of those shows that, like, makes you want to read it. It's a really well done fantasy story. It's very typical YA of, like, girl find out she's special with magic thing. Girl chosen one. But, like, I will say that, like, one of its main strengths is that, like, in a lot of fantasy stuff, there will be a racism allegory that does not involve any actual, like, cultural diversity. Like, it'll be, you know, like
the Mudbloods.
Yeah, it'll be like Harry Potter with, like, blood purity, or it'll be like elves versus dwarves, but they are both still white. But, like, this, yeah, like, so the Shadow and Bone series does have, like, there are people who can do magic and they do face discrimination, but there's also just straight up racial discrimination that is, like, an actual problem for a lot of the characters.
Cool. Also, follow Haley on Twitter at @TheWrit2Wit.
Whatever. One day I'll remember that.
She tweets there and it's funny. Mary-Peyton, what do you got?
Well, my plug was going to be the exact same show.
Ha!
Great. No, that's great.
I'm
a double
so
plug.
glad that double plug. Disgusting.
It didn't sound like one plug is somehow
Keep it
way
in the
less weird than a double
Christina.
plug. Sorry.
So I'm literally just going to plug something I had thought about today when I was talking to Christina, actually. The book, The Wilder Girls.
Oh, yeah.
Which a lot of people feel both strongly that they like this book and strongly that they don't like this book. So however you want to feel, I don't know, just read it. I really enjoyed it. It's like these girls in a school, but for some reason the whole campus area is, like, fenced off and they're very protective. They're running out of food. There's some sort of evil kind of in the wilderness around them that they have to protect themselves from, and they're cut off from the rest of society. And you certainly get the idea that it's some sort of, like, zombie-ish kind of sickness or something that's affected the world. But there's that's like as far as I can go with the description, because the whole thing is figuring out really what's going on. And it's just really cool because, it's just all these relationships and friendships between the girls in this very, very tough, stark, cold kind of world that they live in. And I really enjoyed it. I really want the author to write some more. I can't remember who the author is at this time. But again, that's the Wilder Girls. I thought it was really excellent and I recommend it. It's like YA, so it's a pretty short read too.
Nice.
Yeah. You can also follow me on Instagram at Richmond Reads if you.
Awesome. I will.
Okay, great.
Caitlin, please plug anything you're working on right now, any and all of your pod work, and if you would also please share with our listeners something that you've been watching, reading, listening to, playing recently that you think other people might enjoy.
I will always plug or / recommend Paddington and Paddington 2.
Wait, didn't Paddington 2 just become like the highest critically acclaimed like movie?
Yes. It is, thereby making Citizen Kane the worst movie. I think that's how that works. So fuck Citizen Kane. That movie's a boring turd. Paddington 2 is the greatest film of all time.
When that popped up in my newsfeed, I was like, Caitlin's gonna be so happy.
Oh my gosh. I've never felt more validated in my life.
Validation.
So, yeah, I'd recommend watching those if you haven't already. And then you can listen to my podcast, The Bechdel Cast, in which my co-host Jamie Loftus and I, plus guests, examine movies through an intersectional feminist lens. So, Hermione not being very active during this chapter is something that I should have noticed more than I did. Anyway.
This chapter has a lot going on, okay?
There's a lot. So that's the Bechdel Cast. And then you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Caitlin Durante.
Awesome. I've been your host, Christina. You can follow me on Instagram at Christina the Con. You can follow me on Twitter at Christina Con. And you can follow me on TikTok at Sprouts Private Stash. And this week I'm going to plug The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Yeah. Nope. It's a really good book. It's a good book. It's a really excellent book about a woman taking her destiny into her own hands again and again and again over the course of centuries as she lives this interminable life that is kind of wearing on her. It's a really lovely book about like identity and self-worth, and yeah.
Nice.
I fucking recommend it. Cool. That's the end of our show. Caitlin, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I've had the best time.
I'm so glad. And this was a really excellent chapter for you to come on for, because there was just so much going on.
And no Quidditch.
And no Quidditch. And I would turn my time turner back 3 turns and do this all over again.
Oh, wow. How long were you thinking of that, girl? She came ready with it. That's on our notes.
Yeah, that's the only thing I wrote down on my scrap of paper.
And I do really, I really recommend the Bechdel Cast. Y'all recently released, I think, one of your Matreon episodes about Cadet Kelly, which I thoroughly enjoyed. It inspired us. We recently watched Smart House, another DCOM.
Sure.
So, I do really recommend the Bechdel Cast. And
thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. No. Thank you. And thank you, as always, to my co-captains, Haley and Mary-Peyton. Hey. Until next time, gang, Harry Potter, get out of school. It's the end of the book. It's time to go. We're out of here. Bye.
Bye.
The Restricted Section was created and hosted by me, Christina Kahn, based on the book series by J.K. Rowling. All music by Ryan Kahn. Logo by Michael Hardison. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Restricted Section Pod, or shoot us an email at restrictedsectionpod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts, feelings, complaints, conspiracy theories, or lavish praise. Where am I?
That movie sucked.
I kind of liked it.
Movie Night Crew Network.